So many good messages in the music as well as in the prayers, and it was really uplifting and great relief to have this tribute to Sharon. It was, I think, more than she would have wanted, but less than she deserved, even less than she deserved. I'm backed up with food at the house, but I want to thank all of the people that have delivered such wonderful comestibles to us in the last few weeks when time in the kitchen was at a premium. I don't want to name names, but everything was good and really appreciated. I want to thank Kathy and Gene Cilberti, my ex-business partner and his wife, for their strategic support and for also finding us Bettina, who was mentioned in the prayers of the people and who really delivered the important overnight care to Sharon, allowed the rest of us to catch up on a little bit of sleep and be in good management the whole way through. Many friends in what I will call, for purposes of today, the civic realm of my life. I'd like to keep them in my thoughts for all of the work that they're doing to keep the wheels turning in our civic life, as well as in our family life, the other side. I want to thank Rachel Morris for the artistic rendition of Sharon's sensibility. Rachel was one of her very closest friends. They were in communication multiple times every day, artist Rachel and artist Sharon. And I said to Rachel about the pictures, I said, let's do something that shows what Sharon looked at and what she enjoyed seeing, maybe pictures that she took more than pictures of her. And so that's how these all came to be. The Skidmore yearbook that broke ground in the mid-1960s, that Sharon was a photo editor, and then her later work, the Trump series with the forks. And Rachel, thank you very much. Yeah. I'd like to thank Mike Ruggiero and Dave Cilberti for video services today at the church and here. This event is being recorded by Dave from the back. I want to thank Burke Funeral Home, who really did a great job of thinking of the details that I couldn't think enough to ask about. And also the staff of Embassy Suites today for just being, I think, one of the nicest hospitality venues in our city. And they actually won the best Embassy Suites in the world a few years ago, so they've set a high standard for themselves and they measure up every day. I also want to thank my friends at Rise, and we had included in the obituary suggestion that memorial donations be made to Rise. This was a choice that Sharon and I came up with. And Sybil Newell, who is their director, and the staff there do a fabulous job. And the funds that will go in there will be used immediately to effect for street homeless, for people with mental illness, people with addiction. And they're really boots on the ground in this community, and they do just a fantastic, fantastic job. And then tonight, if you're near radio around 8 or 9 o'clock, Wanda Fisher on WAMC. She came through the wake yesterday, and she's an old friend from years of yore. And she will be playing part of a disc by Bob White, who was my best man at Sharon and my wedding, and 52 years ago. And but he put out a great disc with some great artists on it: Mad Cat Ruth, David Bromberg, Jack Hume. So she'll be featuring some of the songs from that album as a tribute to Sharon on WAMC this evening on the, what's it, Mostly Folk show, I think it is. So yeah, that'll be tonight. So again, I want to thank everybody for their emotional support, for deliveries of useful things, food and other things at the house. No more for the time being, please. We have to eat our way through what we have. but I do appreciate it so much. And with that, we're going to begin with, where's Patty Rubio? Okay. We have a message from some very dear friends of ours who were not able to make it because of a medical situation that came up just the other day, from Joan and Angel Berenguer, formerly with Skidmore College and Tufts University. And Patty Rubio from Skidmore will read Joan's message.
Hello, everybody. Just before I read Joan and Angel's message, I just want to say that Sharon was the first non-Skidmore person that my late husband, Juan Carlos, and I met here in Saratoga, and it was in 1980. It was September, and Sharon made her way up to Skidmore, and she knocked on Juan Carlos's office and said, "I've heard that you're from Chile and that you're new in town." And so they chatted a little bit and said, "This Saturday, we have a get-together at our house, back the house in Circular, and I would like for you and your spouse to come." And that was the beginning of a 50-year-old friendship. Typical Sharon, emblematic of her ability to empathize with the needs of others and to embrace newcomers to her home. Thank you, Sharon. We shall miss you very much. So this is Memories of Sharon from Joan and Angel Berenguer. Our memories of Sharon span almost half a century and are spread over a wide and diverse geography, from Saratoga Springs to New London, to New York City, to Boston, to Barcelona, to Almeria, to Medford, to Madrid, to the Finger Lakes, to Vicar, many times back and forth, sharing fun, interesting, happy times together. Sharon's measured, peaceful pace of life laid the foundation for two of her salient traits that we especially valued. On one hand, we loved her exceptional capacity to always find time to provide care, support, and love to those around her, her family, her friends, acquaintances, even total strangers. I remember Sharon in the women's room of a Cambridge movie theater immediately jumping in to offer soothing solace to a solitary weeping moviegoer who had taken refuge in the bathroom after being emotionally overwhelmed by the revelations depicted in the film Spotlight. This was quintessential Sharon, kind, empathetic, outgoing, and compassionate. On the other hand was Sharon's boundless fascination and awe with the beauty and wonders she incessantly discovered and devoured in her surroundings, be it some delicate wildflower on a hiking path in New London, the delight of a child's new acquisition, a Gaudí creation in Barcelona, or a desert landscape blanketed in the hills of Almeria. Sharon's presence opened one's eye to so many overlooked or ignored marvels in the world. One cozy night in London, a cry of joy rang out from Sharon upon discovering a stunning moon butterfly perched over the porch light of their holiday cabin in the woods. Her delight and enthusiastic explanations about this extraordinary sighting were entirely contagious and captivating. These were just some of the many gifts we received from Sharon over our long acquaintance. In the gift category, we especially need to mention Sharon's artistry and specifically her generous and talented rendering of Angel's head in a beautiful terracotta sculpture that is featured on a lit shelf in the living room cabinet of our Vicar home. She also made many wonderful photographs over the years of our daughters, Celia and Paloma, as well as other family members, one of whom was our nephew, Alfredo. Sharon retrieved a delightful snapshot of Alfredo as a child, playing with our daughters in Níjar from among her old collections last year, and delivered it to our Medford home, strangely enough, shortly before his unfortunately untimely death. The photo was featured prominently at his memorial in Almeria. The Boyds had welcomed teenage Alfredo to their home for a summer some 3 decades ago when he was working on his English and offered him a wonderful cross-cultural experience. These memories are just a few of the many things we will miss with the unfillable absence of wonderful Sharon. But memories are also gifts. And we get to continue cherishing these delightful moments of remembering our shared times, our laughs, our discussions, our discoveries, and our love for Sharon. Sharon's light shines on.
She used the terminology moon butterfly. It was actually a Luna moth. And they're about this big. And it came up to the outside of the screen window at the cottage in New Hampshire. And yes, I mean, everything Patty said was true, what Joan said was true. But Angel's first reaction was, let us kill it and keep it. And Sharon insisted on letting it go. So it went back into the woods. But it's the only time I've ever seen a Luna moth that big. We're very honored to have Congressman Paul Tonko with us today. And he and Sharon were soulmates, I would say, in the political realm, text messaging fiends. And I just invite him up here to say some words about Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Gordon, first and foremost, my condolences to you and your family and all of your friends. Sharon was a powerful force for all of us who knew her. My days with Gordon go back 40 years this year. When I first ran in a... Pardon me?
Brown hair.
Brown hair, yeah. 40 years ago, when I first ran in a special election in the New York State Assembly, and right there, working the field, was Gordon Boyd. So my heartfelt thanks to him and Sharon for so much guidance and so much investment in my opportunity to serve. And I know that in this business, in elected office, you come across many interested, driven, concerned, active souls that want to share with you how you ought to go forward on certain issues. Well, Sharon was one of those. All who know her here in this crowd know that she believed deeply in how we should move forward at all levels of government. And I was so happy that in the homily, the Reverend emphasized the recent tragedies in the state of Maine. I could literally see and hear Sharon's response to all of that activity, because something needs to be done in regard to the violence that comes by guns. But that aside, you know, there is such a style to Sharon. Her spirit always inspired and encouraged and motivated me, and it will continue to, because I will always be able to recall and say, what would Sharon think about this? Because having known her for so many decades, you know that just where she would be going with her political thoughts and her policy thoughts. And so I just want to call to mind today her great service as a citizen. She took her role as citizen as a badge of honor and worked it royally. And it was always based on what was more fair, what was more just, what was more kind, what was going to build our community, our state, our nation, our world. She embraced that with a high degree of love and determination. And so let me just share that, you know, anything she texted about, which was frequent, anything she shared when we were in company, which was always anticipated, was done thoroughly, fully, and passionately. And that force stays with us. I thought the service, Gordon, captured her life beautifully. She lived her faith. She made certain that she used her time here and shared her gifts and literally poured herself empty. And for that, we can all be grateful. I'll say that all of us, I think, want to achieve a gold star after our name when our story's over here on Earth. I think Sharon leaves with a constellation. God bless her.
Next. Kate? I mean, anybody wants to get in line, please.
You stop talking and let me up here. What can I say?
Say it into the mic.
But you gotta fix the mic, you're taller than I am. All I can say is that I've been touched by a woman who's been full of wisdom, love, knowledge, and through her, I have met all of you in here. But one day I got a call from my son, and you're probably wondering why I got this hat on. He said, "Mom, I'm going to Iraq." I got on that phone and I called Sharon. I don't have a ride. I have walked 4,000 homes for all of you, for the Dems up here, but no car. I said, "Sharon, you better ask Gordon if you're allowed out." Then I called Ann Bullock. Oh, God forbid, with her attorney work. "Do you have time?" All of a sudden, they both stopped. I was blessed. I was honored. My son is sorry he couldn't make it here. But the extended family, I'm here for you wherever you are, for the kids, for everybody. But this woman really has done a number to me. She has graced me with all of you, and most of all, a tall man like you that I met in the assembly. But I've had enough of your sarcasm. Let it go now. But I got the butterflies, and may you have a butterfly, and may you fly forever. God bless.
Gene Cilberti, my ex-business partner and very dear friend.
Just a quick story or two, typical of the type of person Sharon was. A few years ago, I don't remember the year, but it was BC, before cell phones. And Gordon and I were in our office over in Franklin Square, and he turns to me and says, "Oh, Sharon's going to be here in a few minutes." I don't remember why, but okay. A few minutes go by, and no Sharon. Okay, no surprise there, right? Half hour goes by, no Sharon. Gordon's like, "Where is she? The house is a half a mile away," right? Okay. Another half hour goes by. Do you remember this story? Yeah. You will. And she's not there. He picks up the landline, calls the house. No answer. Okay. Wait a little longer, no Sharon. He calls a few of her friends. "Have you seen Sharon?" No, she's not here. Okay. About 2 hours late, Sharon comes bouncing into the office. "Where were you?" "Oh, I was on my way here, and there was a cat stuck in a tree. And we had to call the fire department to get it down. Then I had to wait. Did you know who was it?" It says, "Oh, I didn't know the owner, but I waited. I thought it was the right thing to do to stay with her until the cat was safely in her arms." It's like, hey, it's just the type. Do you remember that? Can I have time for one more? Sure. Oh, yeah. She was interested in more things than anyone I know. Like politics, photography, gardening, politics, right? The arts, music, women's rights, current events, gun control. Did I say politics? So one day we were having a fundraiser at the Adelphi for Congressman Tonko under Energy Next in the ballroom, and I'm out in the hall, and Sharon comes bopping in with determination. "Where's the congressman? I have to talk to him." "Well, okay, he's inside. What do you want to talk to him about?" "The space program." It's like, what? Just when you think she couldn't have more interest. "So, what do you want to tell him?" She says, "I want to tell him we shouldn't be sending people into space when we could send robots and machines." I go, "Sharon, I'm a science nerd, and I'm a big fan of the space program. You can't do that, not on my nickel anyway," right? She says, "Oh, okay, no problem. I'll talk to him about something else." It was just the type of person she was, no hard feelings, nothing, She was just so sweet and caring, and I think if everyone was like her, we wouldn't have the problems that she was trying so hard to solve, So, yeah, she was something else. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Howard Nelson. I've had the good fortune of knowing Sharon since 1973 when I was a junior at Skidmore College and she was working as a counselor and she helped me out with some things. Rather than go through all 50 years, I'm going to give you 3 short stories about her that I'm very fond of. Several years after I graduated from Skidmore, Gordon and Sharon were my landlords at 127 Circular Street. And they had the apartment above me, and outside their bedroom window there was a wooden fire escape. So one night there's this god-awful thunderstorm, and I hear these loud footsteps running down the steps, and it's Gordon and Sharon. They're buck naked, and they're running around the yard, really just having a blast in the rain. I say this because these two were so meant for one another. My second memory of... My second short memory is actually a photograph that was taken in front of my house when I lived around the corner from them at 60 Greenfield Avenue. And I like two things about the photo. Number one, I still had my hair then, so I appreciated that. But the other thing is Sharon's 45 years old in this picture. She's wearing a short sleeve shirt, her shoulders are back. She looks like she could take on the world. And I just love looking at it because it reminds me of who she is or now was. And my third memory was Sharon and I took a hike up Black Mountain near Lake George, actually right on Lake George. And she's taking pictures all along the way. And we get to the top, and it's just beautiful. And we lay down, and pretty soon Sharon is asleep. And a small goldfinch lands right next to her foot. And I'm thinking, do I wake her up so she can get the photograph? But I let it stay. And I kind of think now it was the Holy Spirit looking in on her, seeing how she was doing, and approving of everything she did. Thank you.
Sharon's good friend and business partner, Susie Kane Kettlewell.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you're all naked. Because I'm terrified. Okay, so I'm just going to say a few words, and I've written notes so that I don't go on too long. Sharon and I used to be in business when I first came to America. No green card. I'm a single mother with a young son over here of 10 years old. And so I would go over to her house and we would sit and chat and talk about how can we make a little bit of money. I had to feed myself. You see, I fed myself too much, but there we are. That's beside the point. And she wanted pocket money. So we had two businesses together. First was art consultancy. We tried to get regular artists, people who are out there who were real artists that Sharon knew, I didn't know. We wanted to take those around to offices and anywhere that we could find that people would, people with money and people who were in the public view would be able to see local artists. And we did a lot of schlepping up and down stairs, elevators, etc., and made no money whatsoever. So we thought, well, what else can we do? And we decided, I know what we can do. We can clean houses. And so we cleaned houses, and the business was an awful name. It was called New Looks Home and Garden. Okay, dreadful name. But what we would do, clean the house, and if the woman or man of the house wanted their gardens renovated or redesigned or whatever, I persuaded them, because I'm English, and I have an English accent. We knew nothing about gardening in those days, but we had audacity. And so we did that for 4 years together, just the two of us. I hated cleaning houses. It's a bit like Groundhog Day. You know, you go back to the same house and you do it all over again. But the gardens were different because they were very creative, etc. Anyway, so moving on. So after that, she didn't want to go into business and have minions. I like minions to do my work for me. So we parted ways, and I started my own business and had minions. And so the one thing I want to say about Sharon, two people I've met in my life who are truly altruistic, and that is Sharon Boyd. The other person is my late husband, the Reverend John Kettlewell of Bethesda Church. He was not the rector, he was assistant rector, I believe. And truly an altruist person, which I need that because I'm a drama queen and it's all about me. So, and Sharon, bless her soul, I would say, Sharon, when I worked with her, I was the one who wanted to kill my clients. And she would say, Susie, don't worry, I'll deal with it, She would pacify me, and she would pacify and go and be diplomatic to the client, so I didn't have to kill them. But a truly altruistic person, you go to her as you've explained. A lot of people have explained here, oops, pardon me, that she was always there. She didn't think of herself, she always thought of you, and she made you think that she was the most important person in her kitchen or wherever, and she'd stop everything and just be there for you, and that was absolutely marvelous. I've tried to do that myself, but a lot of it didn't rub off. But there we are. So that's Sharon, and I know that I'm so sorry about it, and good people, bad things do happen to good people, and unfortunately, we've lost her. So thank you very much.
Identify yourself.
I'm Louisa. This is not going to be me speaking about my mother. I can't do that. But what I can do is read, unfortunately, her siblings, due to various health ailments, weren't able to attend today. So I will be periodically reading each of their sentiments concerning my mother. So here's one from her sister, June Walker Rodman. My sister Sharon and I are the female bookends among 4 children. Sharon being the first, and I, June Walker, the last. There was a span of 16 years between us. Indeed, it was a generation between us. I never remember a time when Sharon and I lived in the same house together, so whatever relationship we eventually came to have, we built as adults. We were raised and cared for by loving parents and grandparents. Very luckily, we had a mother and a grandmother who saw beauty everywhere, in the natural world around us, and passed the awareness and appreciation for beauty to Sharon and me. Sharon and I were taught to see the divine beauty and uniqueness in a seashell, a tree, a flower, and a leaf. These were all things that gave my sister pleasure. Sharon was so brave and kind, a wonderful listener, and she was interested in beauty and design and color. She was passionate about making the world a better place by putting down deep roots in a beloved community and helping those in need whenever she could. Whether this meant tending to a friend's garden, helping a friend move out of an apartment, taking someone to a doctor's appointment, carrying food to a person who was sick or arranging the Christmas flowers for the church altar. Sharon shared her energy, her talent, her love and countless acts of kindness to others. Perhaps her best legacy is the two wonderful babies she and Gordon brought home from Colombia, Luis and James. How she loved you both. Thank you all for coming to honor my dear sister. And thank you for being loving friends to Sharon and Gordon.
Well, I'll give you a little bit more background. Yes, I will. Yes. My name is John Dunlop, and I've known Sharon my whole life. Because her grandfather and my grandmother were brother and sister. And just to give you a little bit of insight, her grandfather's nickname in the family was Hurricane Elmer. And it wasn't because he was tame. I wish Louis was really good at telling the story about he kicked out of a VFW for instigating a fight about something.
I erased those details.
Yes, but that was just the level of fervor and attraction that Sharon just had in her life for so many different things. But probably one of the earliest recollections I have of Sharon is that when we were growing up, our families would spend summers together at the Jersey Shore. And in total, there were about 12 kids, and Sharon was generally the oldest. And one day, I think I was maybe 7 or 8, she decided to take a group of us to the miniature golf course, which was easy walking distance from the house that we were staying in. Before the miniature golf game, I happened upon a package of prunes. And that was the first time I had prunes. They were pretty good. And as much as everyone else tried to tell me, don't eat too many of those, don't eat too many of those, the message went over my head. We got out to the miniature golf course, probably about the 3rd or 4th hole. All of a sudden, nature's depth charge went off. And the other ones were sort of looking at me like, see, we told you, see, we told you. Sharon was the one who looked at me and said, let's go. And she took me back to the house, and that was just the level of kindness that she showed everyone. And that's what she meant to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Katie Hooper, Sharon's friend.
Like Patty Rubio, who started us off today, Bert and I came to Saratoga in 1979, and we had Gordon and Sharon's phone number and name from our mutual friend, David Langdon. So we called them up. It was early in the morning, and they invited us to breakfast. And that began our friendship. And it was only a year and a half later, that Sharon was the godmother of our first child, Katrine. So what will I miss going forward without my best friend? Sharon and I had birthdays exactly 2 months apart. So I will miss our birthday lunches we did for each other. And they were elegant. We made a big effort, and we got out the good china. Either it was at her house for my birthday, or my house for her birthday, or sometimes at Mrs. London's, and there was always a Mrs. London's chocolate cake to go for our dessert. I'll miss Sharon just walking into my house unexpected, coming down the hallway and flicking away a few cobwebs, a talent I think she inherited from her mother. I'll miss having, in the same ilk, I'll miss having lunch on our little patio at our house and Sharon and I sitting and just chatting, and I could just see her. You can tell, you could see this energy. She could just hardly hold on, and finally she was up and pulling the weeds out from between the rocks on the patio. I'll miss her spontaneity. She would show up at the house, luckily maybe between students or when I had just finished teaching. You've got to come with me, Katie. There's this incredible yard sale. And I found some really old books, and I just know you're going to love them. And off we would go. Or it would be a tree that was in full bloom in the spring on the other side of town. Have you got 10 minutes? We've got to go and see that tree. She had that, and I always managed to find a way, or if I couldn't, if I was teaching, she said, "When you done?" "Okay, I'll be back in an hour." And she was. I just loved that spontaneity. I'm really going to miss her gentle wisdom. And when I was going through a tough time in my life, she sort of pulled me back from the brink and found a more reasonable way to go forward. It was as if she could see way beyond what I could see to know what would be the right decision to make at that moment in time, and she was right. I'll miss singing with her. We were fellow altos at the Bethesda Choir, those of you who were at the service. She would have been right there, and we sang together at Skidmore Community College. I'll miss writing letters to her. When I'm gone in the summer, we go up to Maine for 2 months, 2.5 months, and that's my opportunity to sit down and write her long letters. And it was just one of those things that we enjoyed together. I'm going to miss her faith, her honesty, her humor, and her love for her family and her friends. Sharon was my best friend.
Mark Griffin.
Well, I've known Sharon and Gordon for a couple decades now. We kind of met at Bethesda Church. And I guess Sharon was interested in me because every time she heard about something that I did, it was some creative idea to fix something or make something work or, get it back together again. So we had a lot of conversations, but everything that we did there was volunteer work. And I, would echo what other people have said about Sharon. She volunteered everywhere. Everything she did pretty much was volunteer. I don't think she ever got a dime. But so today I'm wearing this shirt from the Backstretch Employee Service Team. If you're not familiar with it, the people on the backstretch had some deplorable conditions there, and a lot of us advocated for better things for the folks on the backstretch. And Mary Lou Whitney has done a wonderful job of helping out with the new backstretch clinic and all that sort of thing. But one of the things that Sharon was proud of was serving dinners on Sunday over there. So a bunch of us from Bethesda Church went over to serve the dinners. And they're all catered. And so Sharon and I had lots and lots of conversations because every time she heard I did something, she wanted to find out how I did it and what motivated me to fix it that way or whatever. But we had a conversation one time about volunteering and tithing. In Christianity, you give 10% of your wage. But both Sharon and I agreed that when a person donates their time, it's worth way more than money. And so I think she lived by that subconsciously, but we put it to words. And I think if more people followed that example and donated their time and didn't expect to get a monetary compensation for it, it'd be a much better world. Thanks.
Rachel Morris.
So I met Sharon in a very unusual way at my garage sale. And I just want to say to you, on the way over here, Bruce Zielinski, God rest his soul, his estate sale was today. Okay? I don't need to say anymore. She missed his estate sale. I could say the same thing that everybody else said, how tender, how immensely intimate she was with you if she was your friend, and how she cared for you. She was the person in my life that cared if I got up in the morning. She would check in on me. And when my boyfriend was dying, she brought him flowers and sat endlessly on the porch with him. When my mom was passing away, and she was so sick, Sharon brought trays of little tiny cups of English custard, that the only thing my mother would eat. She just knew how to caretake and how to give you wonderful, generous parts of herself. And you thought you were the only one that she was doing that for. And I looked across this room and think, I was her best friend. She was my best friend. And I see she was everybody's best friend. She really was. And when I went through her phone, there wasn't one surprise in that phone. I knew everything she adored, and it was all on that phone. To try to only pick, I had to go through thousands of photographs and try to print out, a mere smattering of what would have been important to her. And I had to leave out her friends, because there were millions of pictures of her friends. My artwork was in her phone. She was always encouraging me to do something with my artwork. She wanted me to do something with her artwork. I mean, she was always so encouraging. And the funny little stories about her that I want to relate is, we made a pact a couple years ago, because I knew she was a clutter bug. She was a hoarder of wonderful treasures, and she'd leave those treasures sometimes on my porch. I'd come home and I'd see something, and I knew it had to have been from Sharon, because I adored it and I didn't need it. I would have Bakelite skates with little things hanging off of them. It was marvelous, and I didn't need it. I had little ginger jars that were tiny, and she'd leave one on my porch with a little nosegay in it from her garden, and I didn't need it, but I adored it. So after we made the pact, I broke the pact when she was in chemo by giving her a book on the Bloomsbury group, because I knew she loved it, and I had to apologize for breaking our pact. And she said, no, I love it, it's a book, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then she came to my house this summer with her sister that she adored, that Louisa was talking about. And she had a little basket in her hand, and she said, this is for your garage sale, because she knew I frequently had a garage shop, and I had a lot of garage sales. And she handed me this basket, and she said, this isn't breaking our pact, this is for your garage sale. And I said, okay, there has to be a story about this basket, so please tell me. And she said, my Swedish grandmother, whom I adored, who's right here, I managed to get her in there, crossed the United States in the middle of the last century to visit her brother on the West Coast. And on her way, she met a Native American woman who wove this basket. And she said, so put it in your garage sale. And I said, damn you, you know I can't put this in my garage sale. This is your Swedish grandmother that you've talked about forever, and you knew I would treasure this. This is absolutely gorgeous, and when I opened it up, it was full of pods, seed pods of poppies and irises and all kinds of things. God knows how long those seed pods were in there. I don't know if they were from her grandmother or if they were Sharon's. But I have that displayed somewhere where I can always look at it. And like I said today, when I passed Bruce Zelinsky's house, and they were having an estate sale at his house, I thought Sharon would have been right in that estate sale. And I have one thing that I just want to tell you. I know she spewed love like crazy cat hearts, and she spread it everywhere. And I don't know how she had time for so many people, because she texted me every day. And if she didn't text me, I texted her, and we shared architecture, and we shared art, and we shared things on psychology, and we shared so many things. But when I went to visit her one of her last days, and she was holding court, and she felt good enough to visit, and there was a lamp next to her, and it kind of cast a glow on her like she was a virgin mother. She was in this glow of the lamp, and Louisa had walked in, and she took Louisa's hand, and she put Louisa's hand to her face, and she held Louisa's hand and kissed it. And she looked over at me, and all I could see was the pure love that Sharon was. She just adored her children. I knew all about her grandchildren, all about her children in the best possible way. And never in the entire time I knew Sharon did she complain about anything. I was constantly complaining about bullshit in my life, and Sharon never bitched, ever. I never heard her, and I often said Donald Trump taught Sharon Boyd how to swear. Because I never... Because I want a show of hands of how many people were texted a fork you picture of Donald Trump. Okay, we all received them. They were so hilarious, and they just kept coming. They kept coming and coming and coming. And I think I actually heard the F word out of Sharon's mouth about him. So that should really be Donald Trump's epitaph. I will miss her forever. I will miss her checking up on me. I will miss her driving into my driveway, parked when I said, Sharon, don't drop in on me. Sometimes I'm just not ready to have people come over. I had an anxiety disorder. She was the opposite of anxiety disorder. She didn't know what it was like to be anxious. I'm always anxious. I'd say, just give me a warning that you're coming. So she'd be in my driveway. Hey, would you like it? You got a little time for a cup of tea? And I'd be in my underwear, and I'd look out my peephole, and I'd see that giant brown Honda with that little tiny peanut driving that car. I'd say, come on in, come on in. And it didn't matter that your house was a mess. She didn't care. She just didn't care. I absolutely adore her. She was the town crier. I knew everything going on in the town, and it's like I didn't lose a fabulous friend. I also lost the person who communicated everything that was going on in Saratoga Springs. So I'm sorry, Gordon, you might have inherited that too. Lastly, I had a bet with Sharon. I had a bet that if Donald Trump went to prison, I would take her to lunch. Restaurant of her choice, because she's sure he's going to prison. And maybe she's working from another realm now to make sure that happens. But I told her, no, he'll never go. They might find him, and maybe they won't let him run again. If that happens, she has to take me to lunch. And I told Gordon about the bet, and he said, well, I've inherited everything of Sharon's. So I am hoping that Gordon has to pay for lunch. On that note, I dearly, dearly love this woman. And the nice thing about that is I got to lean over and kiss her and tell her how much I loved her. And I had to apologize for being her psychic vampire. And it never mattered to her. She accepted me, all my flaws. She was great. I just adore her. Thanks.
Comes Jay Williams from Bucknell University.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jay Austin Williams. Gordon and Sharon knew me as JJ when I was in college at Skidmore between 74 and 78. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. I'm not going to talk long because I'm so profoundly humbled by all of this. I have a somewhat more peripheral now relationship to Sharon and Gordon because when I knew them, it was so long ago. It was probably pushing 50 years ago. And then we had I had the supreme good fortune of the two of them coming back in my life years later, and we've now been in touch for years. And that has been a glorious gift. But I just needed to say that when I was 18, 19 years old, I'm not sure how we met. We came into each other's lives, I think, through music somehow. Stuart Armstrong, okay, yeah. So that's the connection. And I was a pretty upside-down kid because I think, in hindsight, it took me years to figure out that it probably took a good 15 years for me to settle down from the death of my mother. So I was still really reeling from that. And these two, I now also understand how young they were. They were like 31, 32 years old, and they're a decade older than me. And they took me in. They basically fostered me when they were living on Circular Street, the house on Circular Street, and they fostered me. And I pushed them to their absolute limits. I mean, we all hear the abundance, the embarrassment of riches of Sharon and how joyous and generous she was. And I actually was one of those kids that pushed her and Gordon to the absolute limit, where they had to actually show me some tough love. And they did, and it was probably one of my earliest lessons as a young person, maybe 19 years old, to see what it is like to look into the faces of people who have done nothing but love you and care for you, and you have pushed them to the limit where they actually have little or nothing left, you know. So it was an extraordinary thing to be able to be coming up here to, I think it was my 25th or 30th anniversary, reunion at Skidmore. And I found them and reached out and said, I'm taking you all out to dinner. And the delight that was there in that reunion and the reconnection that was there for us was just extraordinary. And so I am feeling like so bereft at this loss, and I know that that's what connects us all, even though some of our connections are older and longer ago than most of you in here. But I just wanted to say that also for Sharon, but also because Gordon is here, and I needed him to hear that as well. So my heart is really full of so much for Gordon and for his family, his beautiful kids and grandkids, and thank you all for giving me this couple of minutes to say that.
I'd just like to add a word about this morning's service. The middle hymn, In Christ There Is No East or West, was put there. It's from Harry Burleigh, B-U-R-L-E-I-G-H, and the attribution sort of dropped off with the page break. Harry Burleigh was the premier African-American composer of the first half of the 20th century. He was a mentor to Marian Anderson and Paul Robeson. And he was in Saratoga and came to Bethesda in the early 1890s when he was a student on his way to the New York Conservatory in New York City, where he worked there with the artist in residence at the time, Antonin Dvorak, orchestrating the New World Symphony. So But the text of that hymn is one that I think really speaks about Sharon's values and our family and all the other things. But I just wanted to be sure you knew about the connection of that hymn to Harry Burley and his connection to Saratoga, because it's quite I think a mark of Saratoga that he was part of our community in a significant way. Next. Well, thank you. I would just like to give thanks to all here and to the forces of creativity and love that brought us together today, for the meal that we've shared and for the fellowship. And I appreciate everyone's, oh, Louisa, do you have another from the siblings?
Yes, you do.
Okay, get up here.
Okay, let's do it. I do want to give, obviously want to make sure that, unfortunately, since they weren't able to come, they do need to be heard because they were a big part of her life and she loved them as well. This is from her sister-in-law, Lee Walker. And Lee is married to my Uncle Lou, and Uncle Lou and my mom were thick as thieves. They were very, very, very close. So obviously, when Lou married Lee, the sentiment was mutual. It's from Lee Walker. When Louisa suggested that Sharon's siblings eulogize her, I had to weigh in. She was the sister of my heart. I hit the sister-in-law lottery with her. From the very beginning, she made me feel loved and supported. She was Lou's older sister, and she loved me even more for loving him. She always had our backs, and I was forever grateful. Sharon was total goodness and kindness. I cry as I write this because I will miss her every day. I will miss her passion for life, her joy in all the small things because people take for granted, and our conversations about books and politics. She fiercely loved her family, her friends, and her community. She was so proud of Leo, Cruzy, and Zavi, and she delighted in sharing stories and photos of them. She was so proud of Gordon and was thrilled whenever someone donated to his campaign. Louise and James were her pride and joy, and she adored Kate and felt so lucky that James brought her into the family. She was a total political news junkie, and our downward spiraling government dysfunction drove her mad. She had a thing about using tines of a fork on photos of Trump on Instagram, making it look as if she was behind bars, as if he was behind bars. I'd laugh at her posts, but I knew that she hoped that he would pay the price for all the dishonesty and destruction he's caused. Sharon was a blessing, and I know she was for all who knew her. A light has gone out in our lives, but she will never be forgotten.
I just want to add one thing. I rescued a parrot from downtown Saratoga Springs. I needed a parrot like I needed a hole in my head, and I don't believe in birds in cages. But for some reason, my parrot loved Sharon. And I have a wonderful video of Sharon on my porch last summer. He crawled down my leg and struggled to get over onto the little settle on my porch to crawl up onto Sharon and talk to her and absolutely woo her. And she had no idea what to do about it. She's like, Rachel. And I said, he loves you, Sharon. And he was literally having a little love affair with her. And the video is on
on my Facebook page, Rachel Morris, but it's also on my phone if anybody wants a copy of it. It's Sharon, vibrant, healthy, and having this little moment with my parrot that is absolutely precious. If anybody wants it, I'm happy to pass it on.
Again, thank you all for making this a special occasion for the family. James, Louisa, Kate, the boys, Julian, everyone, we all thank you very, very much for making this a special time and giving us the support that you have over the past weeks and months and years. So, thank you.